Alright, this is my GameBoy Pi Zero. I haven't seen anybody else build one with the Pi Zero yet. It's so new, obviously, but it took me a couple weeks to get mine in, and I got mine from Pi Hut, thank you, and then Adafruit I used for the other components I added to it besides the original Game Boy parts. While this boots up, it's a original headphone jack. You can see the case is kind of open because I pulled two screws out the show for this presentation. Volume controller is original. I did flip it over so I can use it to glue mount this USB to it. So it is the original parts there. Sorry for the screen getting a little fuzzy here. There we go. It's starting to get a little better. Now, I also use the original power jack. You kind of see the battery right there when you look. I'm trying to still solve that. This is the SD card, the charger port right there. So retropie works pretty good on here. Sorry if it's a little hard to see, but it does run pretty well. Nintendo games tend to work really well. I did have to set it on the turbo setting in the recipe config. Unfortunately, the sound audio was giving me problems unless if I put it to turbo. I'm using a USB audio sound card, so I think that it's biting into some of the memory a little bit. I split the RAM up and I put 128 on the memory split of the RAM to help try to get the things to run a little bit smoother. Super Nintendo works pretty well overall. There are a few games that it doesn't work well on. So like Mario Kart, it'll start to stutter a little bit. I know Star Fox, it stutters really bad on the audio. So these buttons do work, but for Super Nintendo, for Nintendo it doesn't. Only Super Nintendo and Genesis it uses some too. This is a 3.2.1 install on here. Sorry, I'm playing screen through screen, so don't judge my playing. I'm just showing that it works. So here, I'll go a little quick so you can see. So it keeps up really well, no problems. The Atari games, Sega Master System works really well. The Sega Genesis Mega Drive works pretty well overall, but there is an occasional sound stutter as well. So I wouldn't really push it past that. If I was to do this again, I might just do the standard Game Boy without the buttons on the back, and these buttons here being added in. They work pretty well. They're a little looser. They don't feel quite as good as the original buttons do, but I've added them in. So Super Nintendo, let's go there real quick, and I'll show the issues that kind of has here. We'll go into Super Mario World first. Let's see here, Super Mario World. So Mario Kart, like I said, it kind of stutters occasionally when you start getting into a lot of sprites on screen, different things like that going on. Overall, it runs pretty smooth. So you'll also notice I have a slight buzz with the audio. I'm trying to figure out, there's got to be some ground issue or something on my amplifier built in. So the game pretty much plays like that, no problem. I've run into a stutter occasionally, but not very often on that game. It seems to be pretty stable. Let's see here. Star Fox, if I go in there, Star Fox does have an issue though. You'll notice it almost immediately. Let me turn up the audio. So the video doesn't seem to really have too much an issue. It does get a little lag, but you can hear it's completely frustratingly unplayable just because of the audio. If you turn down the volume, it might be playable, but it just annoys me. So anyways, I am going to shut this down and kind of show you the inside of it so you can see kind of what I did. So it's almost done. Okay, good enough. So now I've unscrewed already. The only 2 points I was able to keep were this screw point here and this screw point over here. I've put a kind of a heavier gauge audio wire and I was hoping to get rid of some of the buzz with that, and it seemed to help a little bit. Now, all the rest of the other points I had to get rid of So I have these magnets on them. I haven't mounted the screen down 100%, so it did just kind of pull up with the magnet, but it keeps the top of this unit open. Now, the audio, I'm using a USB sound card. I've stripped the plastic off of it, and I used that to kind of get it a little bit smaller, but I didn't have to try to figure out a different way to get audio out of the HDMI or anything. Just a little bit of simple coding that I found online. I didn't have to really figure it out. It said what to type in, and just in a couple minutes I was able to get the audio to function. So the Pi, excuse me for my the things going on the screen are a little dark here, but I'm going to unscrew the Pi. I mounted it directly to the Adafruit screen. I think this was the 3.2 screen, the Pi TFT. The main thing that I found is I had to cut the little ears off of it and then shave down the board just a little bit on each side, but it fit exactly in there. So this is the Pi, and then I just used these mounting holes that were originally for buttons if you wanted to add them on. I knocked off the connectors that were on both sides of this Pi 2, the Pi Hut, and got rid of it because it just didn't fit in there. So yeah, and then the USB, this is a USB splitter, micro USB splitter, and I extended it, made it a little bit more thin so I can get it in here. I got a battery from Adafruit, I think it's a 2000 milliamp, 3.7 with their charger, and that's their amplifier right here for their audio, and it works really well. It's pretty stable, no real big issues, like I said, except for the sound stuttering occasionally on Super Nintendo. This is a circuit board from another Game Boy here. I just cut it and super glued it to it, and it made some mounting points, and you can cut some of these points off on some of the case, the other second one, if you buy two like I did, and glue them in and use that too. So I did that in a couple different places here. Original Game Boy power switch, like I was saying. You can see how I wired it there. I did the yellow as ground here and orange as hot. I started running out of all my wiring when I did this, so some of the colors are a bit funky, but it works. Like over here, this is a ground. It helped for me to hook up on the original headphone. Over here, a ground to the amplifier. That cut out a lot of the noise as well. I'm thinking I may have to do that over here too on the volume control knob that I have here. But you can see I've mounted it actually upside down from the original one. The ground should be down here, but I flipped the whole piece so that way I had a place to mount it and a place to put this too. But that's basically the GamePi Zero. One note to make is if you do not plug in a USB into your Pi Zero for keyboard or anything like that, it will not function. There's probably some coding that you can find that will allow you to bypass that, but mine would not allow me to turn it on unless if I had something plugged into that USB. It would just do this white screen. Now I have plugged it in, so it's just going through the boot up process. In comparison to the Pocket Pi Girl, I built one of those. This one runs pretty consistently to the same. I haven't really had too many differences. The Pocket Pi Girl seems to actually run just a little bit better in general, but you know, I like this one. It's pretty cool. So hopefully we can get an image out there that runs a little bit smoother. I think it's just my config options, but yeah. Well, thank you for joining me, and hopefully that helps anybody if they have any questions on how to attempt this. That's the inside of my Game Boy Pi Zero. Thank you.